here we are in Stockholm together with the gallerist Ciléne from Andréhn-Schiptjenko to hear about the idea of collecting art. If you were to give an advice to a person that wants to start to collect art, what advice would you give?
Well, I have 3 pieces of advice. First, to see as much art as possible at galleries, at institutions, in magazines, wherever, to get an idea of what touches you. Second advice would be to start buying fairly small, not start with one big, very expensive piece, but to start with smaller works, because one does adjust one's wishes and one's taste with time. And thirdly, to buy or acquire something that is also slightly annoying, an artwork that touches you, but that also questions you, maybe in a way that you don't fully understand.
How did it all started? Why did you start a gallery?
I had moved to Stockholm because I was offered a job here, and I quite quickly got into hanging out with artists, going to the parties at the Royal Art Academy, going to the parties at the Moderna Museum. I just felt that I wanted to present artists that were important to me. But the most important thing that happened there was that I started working with Marina. At a certain point, I was exhausted running this very big gallery by myself, and somebody told me, you should talk to Marina Schiptjenko, she could come and work with you. And we hit it off like a house on fire. And very rapidly after we started working together, we were both fired, and that initial gallery was closed. And we were just looking at each other and saying, what are we going to do then? And then we started Andréhn-Schiptjenko. And Andréhn-Schiptjenko has that name. It doesn't have Gallery Andréhn-Schiptjenko, because from the start we were thinking, okay, we want to work with artists, we want to develop projects with them, we want to support them, we want to mount exhibitions, but maybe we will want to do other things as well.
From the very beginning, did you have a clear profile of what you wanted to create, or was it intuitively as you went along?
I think it was probably a little bit of both. I mean, we started the gallery because we had a very strong sensation that there was art that needed to be shown and that wasn't being shown. We started the gallery in 1991, so one has to look at it at the context of the late 80s, early 90s. There was a huge financial crisis in Sweden. There was very little interest in contemporary art. There was very few places where you could see contemporary art. And we had a group of artists that were willing to show with us and that were willing to go with us, and that was our capital. So we did have quite a clear idea that we wanted to show artists that were of our generation. We wanted to show conceptual work. We wanted to show installations, film, photography, video works.
How did you find the artist, or how did the artist find you?
That is both an intuitive process and a process where we actually search for artists. We got hold of a copy of Frieze magazine, and we were thinking, it seems to be a lot happening in London, in Great Britain right now. Let's go there and see for ourselves. That's how we everything built on one another, and each artist or each gallerist recommended us to other people, but we also keep a close eye on the art academies and the art schools around us. It's very organic, but we often have an idea of what we're looking for.
To be successful as a gallery, you need clients. How do you find your collectors or buyers?
I would actually say that many of them find us. Of course, we actively search out collectors. We've found a lot. I mean, since we've been doing this for a number of decades, we have found quite a lot of our collectors at art fairs. You hear about collectors, you hear about foundations, you read about them, you find them on Instagram, you read about them in the press, and then you try to find out how to get in touch with them. More public collections and foundations, we visit them. What is important when finding a collector or trying to find a collector is that you need to know, what is this collector interested in? And I think in order to approach a collector successfully, you need to have an idea of what are their centers of interest, what are they collecting, and what is it within our program that could be of interest for them. It's true that it's a lot of research behind finding new collectors, and finding a collector is one thing. Having them actually acquire something from you is another matter, and there could be quite some time between the two.
To finding the right clients or the collectors, the fairs are a crucial channel to get them. How do you choose which fairs you should be part of?
There are different criteria for that. I mean, we have done Art Basel in Basel for a quarter of a century, and we decided to try for that. I mean, the first participation was in 1998. We did the Armory for many years. We did Art Basel Miami for many years, and that was a way of trying to access the American market. We have also done Art Basel Hong Kong for a couple of years, which was a way of trying to look into the Asian market. We have been present in Mexico for many years as well, as a way of reaching both, we have some Mexican artists, but also to reach Latin American collectors. Now that we have opened a space in Paris, which we did 5 years ago, it was a way to reach collectors, curators, and artists that are outside of Sweden. We started doing fairs really from the get-go. I think we did Art Chicago in like 1994. That was our first fair, 93. It's also important for us to do fairs that are close to home, because even though we are interested in having as international a market as possible, it's also very important to kind of dig where you are. Obviously doing market, the Stockholm Fair, we're doing Chart, the fair in Copenhagen. We have now started doing Art Brussels, which is close to Paris. We literally just came back from Art Basel Paris, which was a tremendous success.
Say if you look back, say 20, 25 years, how do you think it has changed over the years?
I think it has changed quite dramatically. When we started the gallery, and for the first decade and a half, collectors tended to be fairly kind of old school bourgeois people, often with a tradition of collecting, often having started out collecting fairly young by buying, editions or works on paper. They'd be very connected to the art world. What has happened in the past decade and a half is that there's been an influx of a lot of kind of new and quick money. As we all know, the disparities in wealth in the world has grown tremendously, and we have seen the rise of the 1%, of a number of people for whom art has now become part of a very exclusive lifestyle. And they can often spend enormous amounts of money, where one does have the feeling that it's more about buying brand name artists than acquiring a specific work, than being part of giving artists the abilities to work. And the collectors that we are interested in are collectors who are really interested in being part of creating the art history of tomorrow. That if you buy a work, you are supporting the artist who has created the work, you are helping them to continue work, you are supporting the gallery from which you buy the work, you are assisting them in continuing to be a platform to present what is being made today, what are the issues of today. And I think the best collectors are the collectors that they buy the work, they take good care of it, and they lend it when they're being asked.
If you look into the crystal ball, into the future, how do you think the market of collecting art will change?
I think that the importance of fairs is going to be constant or growing. Well, I think also for collectors, as well as curators and other people from different institutions, I think galleries will continue to play a very important role, because there too it's a matter of trust. They need to have a counterpart that they can trust, that they know this person is being in it for the long run. They know that this person has specific tastes and specific centers of interest, and that the gallery actually stands for something. And that again is a matter of trust, which can't be built very quickly. I mean, I know that there are people who sell on Instagram, and we get requests occasionally from Instagram where people find works, etc. But I don't see that as something that will replace the gallery as regards sales. But most importantly, I think when you are an artist, and for sure when you're a gallerist, obviously we all need to sell the work because that's how we live and that's how work can continue to be done. But as an artist, you make your work because you want to put it out there. You want people to see it. As gallerists, the main ambition of Andréhn-Schiptjenko and myself is that we want to do exhibitions. We want to say, and this is why we started the gallery in the first place, we were thinking, this is important work. People need to see this. Voila, there you go. And there's something about this generosity that still is something that I find exhilarating. Every time we open an exhibition, I'm like, wow, I am happy and I'm proud and I'm keen and enthusiastic to show this work to the world.